Good afternoon, everyone. I seem to be by myself in this Google Hangout, so I wanted to record it to make sure that there's something that shows me showing you how to do a descriptive outline. So I'm going to be using the senior article, A Change of Heart About Animals by Rifkin. And if somebody joins me in a little while, we may also handle the junior article that needs to be done as well. But the descriptive outline, there's already one of my students who's become a pro at this, and I don't know if she's done this before in another class, but I can tell that just with a couple of practices, she's got this down now. So let me assure you that once you've got this process down, it is very helpful when you're looking at an article that you don't know very much about, and it helps us know that you are understanding the article and what the author's trying to do in terms of rhetorical strategies. So let me share with you the article. And so here is and I've actually started to break it down. So, and I'm using Cami. I did use Cami, and I'll be showing you how to make sure you have the right annotated version, because I know some of you are still having problems with that. But what I start with, first of all, if you read the article first and then go back through, that's very helpful. That's what a lot of people prefer to do, but sometimes, especially if it's a topic that you're not that thrilled with, or it may be written at a level that's a little bit higher, it's good to have highlighter with you and to have a physical copy. If that's not available, make sure that you have your copy uploaded into Cami, and that's pretty easy to do. Let me show you how I do that. So actually, Cami is an app that you can add to the Google. And so if you have that added, you simply open it from the app. But if you don't, you would go to web.camihq.com. And then you can just upload it from your computer or from your Google Drive. And it's really simple to just, once you know where that is, hopefully it's on your desktop, and you just select it and open it, and there's the article. And so you can use the tools here. And I've already gone through and have broken up where the rooms are. So let me explain a little something about the rooms. Remember that this is structured in such a way that the author can persuade you or inform you. In this case, Rifkin, for this article, he's more informing than persuading, although he is kind of trying to get you to think a little bit more about animals, but he's not actually saying stop eating meat, don't kill animals, they're human too. He's not saying any of that. So the way I find rooms is I find transitional phrases or words that kind of help me figure out where he's sort of changing the direction. So looking at this article, and I'm hoping that you can pause the video and read through it, at least this first page, and then as you pause it, go through and see if you can figure out why I've put the lines where I have. Now, the introduction usually ends with the claim, the major claim. So this first paragraph here, they are more like us than we imagine scientists are finding. This is actually the subtitle of the article. And then the sentence that ends this, let's see, a quieter story has been unfolding behind the scenes in laboratories around the world, one whose effect on human perception and our understanding of life is likely to be profound. That's too general. It hasn't given me yet what the statement is that he's trying to make, or what I expect the rest of the essay to be about. The change of heart about animals, the title is going to give me a clue as to what that thesis is. So in this second paragraph, I've highlighted what the major claim is. They feel pain. They, meaning animals, feel pain, suffer and experience stress, affection, excitement, and even love. And these findings are changing how we view animals. So I know that for the rest of this article, these are all the things that are going to be explained. So I draw the line after the claim, because now the rest of this is going to be the body, and I label it major claim. Now what I've done here, everything that is on the right side are all the says, and everything that's on the left are all the do's. The major claim is the only thing that can be quoted. If it is a direct, explicit claim, go ahead and quote it as the says. Everything else has to be paraphrased when it comes to say. So, do. Let's take a look at how this looks. Places the thesis in context. That's always going to be the introduction. The introduction will always say this. You could use introduces as well, introduces the thesis in context. But the first chunk is always the same thing. It's presenting that thesis. Then say. And again, this is where I've said that you can actually quote the major claim. What these researchers are finding is that many of our fellow creatures are more like us than we have ever imagined. So that's my first room. Now, what I'm looking at in these next paragraphs, I figure out, okay, what is it saying first? And I'm realizing that in these paragraphs, the fast food companies are the ones, because they've been pressured by animal rights activists, they're the ones who are supporting these studies to figure out, do pigs feel emotion? And so this first paragraph tells us why this research is happening. And then it tells us what the studies actually were about. And then what are the results of that study? And so the says part, I wrote, the fast food companies fund research that show pigs crave attention. Very simple, to the point, don't need any details from it. It's all paraphrased. So this is where we actually get some of the evidence. So the do is presents evidence about pigs. We put that into the descriptive outline. Describes research funded by fast food companies into emotional and mental states of pigs. And the outcome of that was pigs crave attention. They need playtime and enjoy toys and get depressed without them. Sorry. Okay. So looking at, I wanted to explain about this paragraph 6, because there are some people who would actually say that 6 is by itself a room because it's a transitional statement. You can tell that this is transitioning because it's the word other funding sources. So we're now breaking off from the fast food chains, and we're coming into other funding sources who fueled the growing field of study into animal emotions and cognitive abilities. So we know that the rest of this is going to be about those other studies. And here is where we get the information about the Caledonian crows and cocoa. So this whole chunk here is describing the other research. And so the do is presents more research explaining the intelligence of animals. And then the research actually proves that animals are able to learn and adapt to new situations. This is coming off of, let's see here. Well, the author didn't really preview it here in the claim, but it's just another way that is showing us they're intelligent and they're very human-like, if not human themselves. Okay, I want to kind of move here. Since there's a page break, I want to make sure that this indeed is the end of the room. Now, the new clue that we're switching directions here is this some philosophers. we've been doing studies up here. Now we're talking about what philosophers are saying. So some philosophers and animal behaviorists have long argued that other animals are not capable of self-awareness because they lack a sense of individualism. Notice what this is doing. This is called the counter-argument. So, the animals can do all these great things, yes, but they don't have self-awareness. How can they possibly be like humans if they don't know about themselves? But they're showing the study at the Washington National Zoo about how the orangutans were given them mirrors and they're looking at themselves and they're grooming themselves. So you wouldn't have self-awareness if you didn't, why look in a mirror? Of course, when it comes to the ultimate test of what distinguishes humans from other creatures, scientists have long believed that mourning for the dead represents the real divide. It is, you could theoretically break this up into two rooms, since this one is about self-awareness of well, maybe you'd say vanity. I don't know. This one down here is about mourning. But it also, they have a couple of different, we've talked about intelligence up here. We've talked about emotion earlier. This one is now talking about the actual human qualities of self-awareness. So I've kind of clumped them together, and I will tell you that there is no key to this. I have not written to Rifkin and said, hey, can you write a descriptive outline for your article because I'm using it in a class. I'm just trying to find out how you're seeing his argument. So there's no key. So just do the best you can on these. I have clumped these two together. And the function, or the do, is presents the counter argument that animals are not self-aware. And it refutes the argument through explaining grieving in animals. So here's what some philosophers say. However, this evidence proves the contrary. And then I summarized it. Animals are self-aware. The orangutan will groom itself in a mirror, and elephants show grief. Again, basic and simple. Okay, the next room, we also know. Transition word, so that's key. Here's a new room. So the other thing we're going to be talking about is this concept of joy. And when they're at play, you can tell they're having a good time. They can experience pleasure. So this paragraph 13, I clumped that in there because it's talking about the neurochemistry of brains. And so we have the specific neurochemical that's associated with pleasure. And then we're talking about, why is it that humans have this and animals don't? Well, as a matter of fact, animals do. So that's how these two paragraphs are working together. The do presents another study to support the claim that animal brains are similar to human brains. Whereas the content, or the say, similar neurochemicals are found in both human brains and animals. So this is presenting the information. Now we're summarizing what the information is. Okay, paragraph 14 I put in its own separate room because it's slightly different from the neurochemistry. To me, and here's where the rhetorical analysis comes in. This paragraph is talking about how geese can pass on the roots to of their flight paths to their offspring. This is a form of intelligence. And to me, I would think that this actually belongs up with this chunk here. And so to me, it seems as if Rifkin has kind of jumped out of order here. Why he put this here, I don't know. And there's no evidence to back this up. Maybe that's why it is here. Notice that there's no study mentioned here. He just says scientists were still advancing the idea that most creatures behave by sheer instinct. Now we know that geese have to teach their goslings their migration routes. How do you know? There's no study here. We don't know the difference. The and you can't, it's not like you can interview a Gosling and say, hey, did your mom teach you how to do this? So when you're analyzing it, with my next read through, I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, how do you know? So I separated this into its own separate room. So this was more evidence, and you know what, I'm looking at this and saying, provides the theory that, because he's not even really presenting the evidence here, he just says that it's existing, that geese can pass on migratory routes to goslings. Okay, so another good word that shows transition. We're changing directions. So I'm going to draw the line between 14 and 15. And what does all of this portend for the way we treat our fellow creatures? Notice that this paragraph are all questions, so made up of questions. This one down here, such questions have been raised, and now because we have these questions, U.S. law schools have introduced law courses on animal rights. So I said that this room transitions into the conclusion by asking questions about animal rights. And then the summary is U.S. law schools now require courses in animal rights. The last paragraph, the conclusion. Now, sometimes, just like in the introduction, the author will put in two different two paragraphs for an introduction. But this one, the human journey is at its core. Notice how general this statement is. And conclusions are meant to be general. So we know that this is the conclusion. And it will always be for the conclusion, just like with the introduction, it introduces the major claim. This will conclude the essay. Humans need to show more empathy towards animals. That's what he is suggesting, anyway, for the says. So once I have done this, then it becomes a matter of just transitioning it into a written format. And there have been a lot of people who have taken that form I gave for the seniors, and you do one for each paragraph. In college, they may ask you to do that. I'm not asking you to do that for two reasons. Number one, it's going to take a really long time. In fact, I already had one senior who took a very long article, and I don't know how long it took the student, but you don't need to do that much work. The other thing is, I think this is a really good skill to learn, and it does tell me that you're recognizing the argument if you are able to go through and find these different functions. Notice that I have down here that you can have more than one say. If you have more than one do, you may need to look and see if it's actually merged together into one paragraph, or if you can divide it up into two separate rooms. So this is how you do the descriptive outline. And if you watch this and you've gone through to this point, tell you what I'm going to do. If you inbox message me, and this goes for any grade level, if you inbox message me and say, may I please have the link to the descriptive outline, I will give you both the link for this file, and you can submit those for your first descriptive outline, just so that I know that you've gone through this video. So I'm hoping that this is helpful to you, and if you have any other questions, be sure to call or inbox message me. So good luck on those descriptive outlines.